Hey everybody, it is that time again for Monster Art School. That's right. So we're back. Sorry about the delay, but I had to go shopping earlier today and it kind of threw off my whole expectation of what was going to happen today. So today we're going to do, that is me sharpening up my pencil. Today we're going to do Ammit. Ammit was the ancient Egyptian monster / god that would eat the dead. And the cool part about Ammit is he is part alligator, part lion, and part, you guessed it, hippopotamus. So I think the fun part about it is that really Ammit is kind of the creature that was essentially all the three most scary things to Egyptians living in the time. You know, three creatures that would eat you if you went too close to the river, at least the hippopotamus and the alligator, and the lion if you went out in the other direction. So it's really a cool creature that's based on the fears of a people. So I think there's kind of a fun idea to that. So we're going to do Ammit, and I'm going to make sure that my camera is on my page. I may even zoom in a little bit. Ooh, there we go. Maybe that's too far. There we go. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to create the idea of a creature that is part hippo, alligator, and lion. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to start with the way that Ammit was constructed was it had the head of an alligator, the front of a lion, the back legs of a hippo. And they don't talk about a tail, but I decided I'm going to put a tail on this guy. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do my page a little sideways. And we're going to draw. So the idea here is to create a line. I'm going to start a line coming from, let's get about 2/3 of the way around across our paper, and we'll draw a line going like this and around, kind of a big S, but sideways. So if it's like this, it's an S, but like this, it's kind of two lumps. So we'll start with that. That'll be our first step. And then right about here, we're going to draw a sphere. And that's going to be far from the shape that we're going to end up with, but I think that's the best way to begin this, is with a sphere. And then down here, like just towards the bottom of that sphere, we're going to draw another smaller sphere like so. And as you can guess, this is the beginnings of the alligator head. Now what's cool about alligators is that the head of the alligator comes up, and then their neck is actually really thick. So underneath this shape here, we're going to have another sphere that runs around like that. And then we're going to draw up on that sphere, we're going to draw 2 points up here, and those are going to be where the shoulders start. So we're going to draw lines out like this to give us the idea of where the arms are going to be, where the front legs. Okay? So that's where the front legs are going to go. And then you're going to draw another big sphere for the middle of the body. So like if this is the chest area here, this is the belly. And then we're going to have our hips. And again, as you can see, as we get back here, it's going to start to look more hippopotamus-like. Then we're going to have our hips back here. And you won't see this one on this side, but you can certainly draw in a little bit of an indication. The hips are across like that. And then we're going to come out like so for the legs here. And now back here, I'm going to throw in an alligator tail just for good measure because it seems cool. So just think of it as a long, twisty, at the moment, a long, twisty C kind of shape. All right? Now, The wire from my thing is getting in my way. Make sure I'm still on camera. Okay, good. Now, from here, remember we put these two shoulder bumps out here. What they're going to do is we're going to draw out from there to there, and at right about this spot where the body line meets the shoulder, the shoulder line, we're going to have this go in a separate direction, and it's going to be a cylinder like so. Okay? And on the other side, we'll do the same. We'll have it, actually, since we don't need to see this upper part of the leg because the head's going to be in the way, we're going to show this cylinder right about here. Okay? That's basically the middle of the leg. And right at the end of that cylinder, we're going to put another ellipse. And from that ellipse, what I want you to do is we're going to draw, how am I going to do this? I'm going to draw a curved band like that and then connect it up to the wrist here. So it's going to come in like this, all right? And this is where the toes are going to go for the tiger, I mean the lion. But I want to make sure, what we want to do is we don't want to lose the structure. And the structure is lion's toes, kind of like a hand like this. There's a flat plane here, and then there's toe planes like that. So a lot of people will want to do this, and that really doesn't show us what the foot will look like. So I like to try to get some accuracy in there. And then over here, from there down, we're going to draw another cylinder, and then kind of this half circle, but it's going to have that straight section there on it. So the foot will come out like this. Okay? And on this one, what I think I'm going to do is instead of having this curve so far down, I'm going to have this curve straight. So we'll have this go like so. Instead of having it curve down, have it curve up. So we get that kind of a look where it's kind of leaning toward us as opposed to moving away from us. Okay, now, under here, I'm going to put that alligator gullet area. And I think I'm going to make the nose of the alligator, the face of the alligator a little bigger. So we're going to make this sphere stick out a little bit more here on this side. And we're just going to kind of run this line back. So that's going to be the line of the head. This is a complicated creature, so you have to bear with me. So as long as you've gotten there, what we should see is, let's get these legs in and we'll start to worry about it. What you see is from the ankle here, we're going to draw out to where the elbow is, and then bring this in like so. And that's just kind of the upper construction of the arm of the lion. And then from here we can go under like this. And if you look at a lion, you'll see that kind of construction there. And then from here we're going to draw the belly in. And I would even make the belly a little heavier, like down like this, because hippos are not known for their slender physique. And then from here, this is that back leg. And in the back leg, hippos have kind of funny stubby legs, which I think is really weird that like they don't look threatening, but apparently hippos are quite dangerous. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of draw the same kind of shape we did here, but with the hippo foot, it's going to be 2 lines down and then another line across, and that'll be the hippo's back foot there. And the foot behind here, so the far leg, we're really just going to see the silhouette. So I'm just going to draw that there to give us the impression of the silhouette there. Now, let's get the tail in at least in better. So we're going to draw the tail. Remember we drew that kind of C shape. What we're going to do is we're going to draw the tail, and from here what we're seeing is the side of the tail. But then that side of the tail is going to come down And then we're going to see the top of the tail as the tail turns away from us. So as we bring the tail back here, the side of the tail goes like this, and eventually becomes the far side of the tail as it curves away from us. So this is the near side, and now it's the far side. So from here we're going to see a line coming like so. And then from here we're going to see a line coming like so. So what we're seeing is this is the underside of the front of the tail facing us, and then it goes away because it's going underneath. And we'll never see that again. And then we can draw a connection line so that it looks like it's coming out of its back. Now up here, let's go over the hippo hip to here, and then we'll continue the line of the belly without drawing it. We'll just kind of continue the sense of that line by putting a line up here that shows the middle of its back, and then we've got its shoulders here. Now we can get to the fun part now, the face. Now the face, what I want to do with that, we're starting off with these two spheres, but it's going to change quite dramatically. And one of the next things we're going to do is back here, so we've got this main sphere here, and then back here we're going to draw a curve that comes off the back of that main sphere and comes in. Then we're going to have another shape that comes out like this, okay? And then a third curved shape that's going to come down like that. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3 bumps, whereas this bump's going to connect up here and that bump's going to connect up there. This one is not. Okay? On the top of the head, right about here, I'm thinking, yeah, right about here, we're going to put the eyes. So put a little eye over here, little tiny eyes, and a little tiny eye over there. Actually, they're a little closer together than that on an alligator. So we'll bring it in a little closer. We'll bring one there and one there. Now, alligators have quite high eye ridges, so we'll draw a ridge like that over the eye. It's a little bit higher than I mean to. It's a little bit of an exaggeration. And then they also have very wide cheeks. So we're going to bring the cheekbone out like so. And we're going to do the same over here. And you bring it out, flatten it, and then bring it back in. So now you're starting to see that alligator come across. Right? Now, down the center, this is flat here. Okay, I'm just drawing these lines to show that it's flat. You don't have to draw those lines. But then there's a kind of a bulb at the end of the nose. So this is going to come up and down and form the lower part of its snout. So as you can see, what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's obvious that the cheekbone on this side and the cheekbone on that side are equally width from each other, although this one could be a little smaller. And then we can put some extra lines in here. Now, as we draw down, let's pretend there's a triangle from the eyes to about the middle of the snout. And that's where we're going to put the nostrils. Okay? And then we can start putting teeth in here. Now the teeth, just have fun with these. You can just make them like triangles going in different angles. If you look at an alligator's mouth, unlike our teeth where there's kind of a pattern, a recognizable pattern between where the teeth are, alligators must have one, but I don't recognize it. They seem to go every which way, and there's small ones next to big ones and big ones next to small ones, all in strange positions. So I'm just going to kind of make up what looks scary enough. And then, so right here, remember that curve we did there? We're going to bring that curve under the alligator's cheekbone. and come out. And then we're going to draw the lower mouth in here. And the lower mouth comes down, and it follows the same pattern. It comes out, in, and out. So you get this kind of curvy wave thing. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. And they connect over here. And then we're going to throw more teeth over on this end here. So now, right in here where the eyes are, let's draw the eyes kind of like shapes like this. And you can put a lid and a lower lid and then the eye ridge up like that. So I'm going to draw that in here. I'm just going to go in like this. I'm going to draw that eye. Draw that lower eyelid, the upper eyelid, and even for good measure, we'll draw another one here just to make it look like you can see the inside of the socket. On the other side, we want to do kind of the opposite of that. We're going to draw down like this, bring this out like so. And we're not going to see that upper eyelid. We will see the bottom eyelid, the lower eyelid, and we'll see the inside of that eye socket. And you can bring this alligator kind of eyebrow up there. Now, there's a thing called anthropomorphizing, and that's kind of like what Disney is known for and a lot of other artists are known for, where you basically take something that doesn't have human characteristics and you give it human characteristics. Now, alligators probably don't get angry, or if they do, we don't see their expressions of anger in the same way we might see it on a person. Because we don't necessarily understand the signals that are alligator upsetness. So what I'm going to say is we have to add what we think of as upsetness or fearsomeness to the creature. So these are human shapes, like around the eyes up here, that make us see anger, but you wouldn't see it in actual, or anger or ferocity, but you wouldn't see it in an actual alligator. They just don't express the way we do. But we can kind of play around with the anatomy to make it feel like a human, kind of a human emotion. So now we've got the alligator face in. Now what's cool is that, we talked about this before, down under here, alligators kind of have this cool, well, I don't know if it's cool, but this interesting lower neck. It's kind of bubbles out, kind of like a bullfrog. And it's very big scales on it. And you'll see them that kind of like, they almost look like stripes, the scales. So you could do this with the scales coming out from the inside of its throat, or from the underside of its throat. Okay? And you can do the same underneath here. You can add another row of this down here to make it feel very like throaty and threatening. And if you want to throw a little bit of scale stuff in here, you can just kind of indicate scales with some extra lines here and there, little ridges like so. You don't want to go too overboard because we're at a distance and you really would only see these scales close up, but you can add bumps to things like this. And because, yeah, if you look at an alligator from a distance, you don't really see the scales. You just kind of see this massive dark shape. Down here on his underside of his chin, you could draw them as well. Like that. I tend to draw scales and things like that in areas of shadow, kind of to create the shadow with lots of scaly shapes. So that's why you'll see, if I'm doing scales, they'll be in the areas where it's already going to get dark. And I use the scales as a detail to create a value. So now the cool thing about this creature is it's supposed to have a mane like a lion. So it's going to be an alligator with a lion's mane. So the mane of a lion comes around the face. So we're going to start to, let's create a shape for that. We're going to come up. We can make it kind of fun and really fluid. Almost think of it like fire. So have it come out from back here. And you could have it blowing in the wind. Now I know manes aren't quite that long, but it's a lot more fun, to be honest, to make it kind of long and scary looking. So I'm gonna make the mane come around like that, and up here, right about above those eyebrows, I'm gonna let the mane come out. And the way I'm gonna draw the hair of the mane is I'm not gonna draw each individual hair. I'm going to start here and I'm going to draw a shape like this and another shape like this. And what these are shapes to give us an idea of where the roots from the hair come from. So you don't have to draw all the hairs, you can draw kind of a idea of where the roots of the hairs come from. And what you're drawing with these lines is kind of the shadows between groups of hair. So if you think of hair, if you look around at other people, hair moves in shapes. And even a lion's mane moves in shapes. So it doesn't just move hair by hair. Otherwise, you're just going to draw something that looks like that. And it's never going to look nice. So what you have to look for is what's the overall shape of the hair. So I'm going to have some hairs come out like this. And you can give a couple of indications of different hairs sticking by themselves. But the idea is to try to indicate as many hairs as you can with as few lines as you can. And again, where you go into shadow, you can use more hairlines to kind of show that. Now, let's get this foot and stuff on. So now we're going to get rid of these construction lines. We made this cylinder here. And get rid of that. And then we can kind of get back. Remember where the ankle was here, right? And then we're going to create the foot here. Get this. Now we're going to go back to this shape that we had. And in the middle, I'm going to draw two kind of upside down U's, and then a smaller one, and over here a half a one that's kind of hidden by this one. And those upside down U's can be the toes for the lion's paw. And that back there is its back paw, its thumb. So you want to have that there too. And on these parts you can throw some more mane back here, and you can throw some more fur on here where it meets the upper body. Bring the hair of the lion back a little bit more. And on this leg, I'm going to bring the leg down a little because I want this to look like a pouncing, about ready to pounce creature. So we're going to bring this down, and then we're going to make this further out like this a little bit, just so it looks like it's down and ready to go. So see the way those legs are formed. It's the same construct I did before, but I just kind of extended the toes out a little bit. So now from here, we're going to take this shape, we're going to split it about 2/3 of the way over. And we'll have one toe here, another toe here, a third toe there, and then we'll have the extra toe shape back here. And then we have, we can draw up the paws to draw the muscles for the bones for the knuckles. Now erase some of these extra lines that you don't need, and you should have something that looked like lion's claws here. And if you want to really kind of make it feel a little bit more exciting, one thing to do is let's have this toe here and then separate this out a little bit and have the toe going slightly different direction. And do the same with this one And do the same with that one. Then it looks like they're kind of tearing at the ground a little bit. And you can get that sense of this, like, I'm ripping through the ground. And also, we're weighing too much heavily on that side, so if we want to really make this feel a little bit more aggressive, we bring this in and around and then in like so. Sometimes just the turn of the anatomy can make things feel more threatening or aggressive or whatever. And right now I don't like this line because it seems to undercut the gesture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this line out further and have it come in, and then we're going to bring that up. I think that kind of fulfills that gesture a little bit more, like it's getting ready to jump at you. And again, you can separate these toes out. Have this toe coming like this. Split this out so that toe's coming out like that. That toe like this, and you can put that little toe over there. And now you're getting that kind of aggressive movement a little more. I mean, no matter how you cut it, this one's an awkward animal, an awkward creature. It's made from three very weird, or a choice of three animals that together are a very strange combination. But, you know, ancient Egypt, who knew? So, this back paw, I'm going to ignore it and just make it into a silhouette. So we know it's there, but we don't need to see it. And then its belly, let's bring that belly out a little further, out here. So make sure it's nice and saggy and alligatory. I mean, not alligatory, hippopotamusy. And then what I'm going to do right about there is I'm going to draw another line that follows that shape, and I'm going to just shade underneath it. And that should give you the sense of depth of that belly, and we can draw a little bit of rendering here just to make us see how deep and fat that belly is. Now we're going to come back here to the knee of the back leg here. Now it's weird, hippopotamus don't look like they have a lot of anatomy on the outside surface of their body, not like a lion does or a human does. So we're just going to kind of create these masses. So here's this mass of that knee, and we're going to have the mass of that hip right there, and then the foreleg here. And then what's interesting is these guys have toes that are separatable, so they kind of a little bit like elephant feet. I'm not even sure. So what I would do is just draw kind of a rounded triangle shape, two of them, as you can see, kind of a rounded triangle and then curve and then another rounded triangle like that. And you keep them spread apart so they look like they're gripping the ground, just like we did with the lion's paws. Okay. And under here, we really probably just going to put, because this area here is kind of deep going back, I'm just going to put a shadow on that. Now, here's where we get to have a little more fun. Up here, on the forehead, I'm going to throw some ridges so it has that sense of the alligator up there again. And then from here, I'm going to put little triangles on his back. They're all pointed a little bit back. Notice? They're longer and then short. Longer and then short. And as they get further away from us and towards the back, we're going to get smaller and smaller, smaller. And what we're going to do with those is, once we get to this point, okay, these little points are going to come down and follow this line here. And we're going to, as we come around, you're going to notice that they're going to change shape a little bit. They're going to start to get more equal on each side, until at a certain point, they're going to start to look more like this than triangles. And you can have them, so what's going to happen is they're going to kind of change direction as we go around here. So eventually they're going to be pointing up this way. But they're so small now that just follow they're just bumps on the contour of that tail. Okay? And then here on this line, which is the other side. You see, alligators have flat top tails. So the flat of the tail here, we're going to see just poking up here, we're going to see some more of those ridges. 1, 2, and we're going to run a ridge right down this side of the tail here. And you can just kind of draw little V's as we get further along, little upside down V's. And then this is the bottom of the tail under here. And then for this part, since this is the bottom of the tail, it's going to be shaded just like we shaded this part. So we're going to just let this go to dark. That little curved triangle there, let it go to dark. And then we can bring up an indication of scales coming out like this. And I'm kind of just using this kind of backwards S shape to indicate the scales. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail from this far away. And then on top here, what's cool is that you'll see something like this on top of the alligator. They have these kind of flat scales like this. So you can just kind of indicate them, and as they get further away, just less and less detail. Okay. Now, other things to play around with are, we could throw some more, let's make this hair come like this, down his back a little bit, so he looks a little bit more ferocious. And let's get in here into the mouth. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade the inside of his mouth here. Like so. And we can give the alligator little ticks of lines there for the eyes. We can shade the underside of that brow of his eyes. And then I think here I'm going to shade this part of his arm, just so that, if you notice, as I do that, his face comes forward. So we'll give this area here a little bit of a shadow, and as the paw comes out into the light, you can do that same here. And there, we've kind of got it, guys. Now, if you want to throw some more fur area here, you can do that if you want. I'm not really big into that. You can end the hairs a little bit more hairy, so they don't look quite so much like fire. And break up some of these shapes. Keep the general shape, but just break it up a little bit so that it really feels a little bit more like hair than it does like flames. So like so. And I think maybe a nice little shadow under here would be good as the head gets closer to the mane. And now on the face, let's throw just indication of scales. Now alligators, if you were to sit down and look at an alligator, you're going to see a lot of different shaped and sized scales for different parts of his body. We can't get into every single one of them, but if you ever wanted to do a close-up drawing of an alligator, you're going to see there's a lot of different size and shaped scales, even just on his head. So I'm not going to try and be that accurate, but what I am going to do is I'm going to draw these kind of curve-in shapes like this, just to kind of give the impression of those scales. Because I don't want to necessarily draw them all. I want to give the idea that they're there, though. If you drew them all, it starts to take away from the reality of it, because our eyes just wouldn't pick up all that information if you were seeing it in real life. So if you don't want to make something that looks kind of unreally detailed, you leave some of the areas out so that, like, what happens when an image is in the light, you draw more of it and more detail. And when things go into the shadow, you let those shadows take over. So there's my Ammit for the day. Ammit, Janet, I love you. If you want to throw some detail on there, maybe throw some ground. I imagine this creature hanging out by the Nile, waiting for people to fall in and slurping them up. The other thing is, since it is the eater of the dead, you might see some skulls and stuff lined by its feet. You might have a skull here. Like so, and the jaw. You know, just fun stuff to, you know, scare your friends, your parents, whoever. Give your parents something to worry about because you're drawing skulls. You're drawing skulls. But yeah, so some skulls and some rocks maybe. And rocks, I would just think about rocks as having hard angled edges, and as the skulls as being mostly rounded. So if you're going to do rocks, you have like ridges in them. Sharp edged ridges. Under the foot here, we can put the shadow to really finish off the piece, bring that shadow back to that far foot. And then there you have it. You have your own personal Ammit. Yeah, weird creature. Kind of fun, but weird. Well, I hope you had fun drawing with us. Like I said, this was kind of a weird one, but it's kind of fun. I like it. Happy little shadows, that's right. And the happy little trees and the happy little shadows. We don't really have happy little trees in the desert. I'm not sure. Honestly, never been to Egypt. Don't know what it would look like at the Nile back then. But the Nile was, you know, fertile part of the year because of all the silt. But I don't know whether it looked like desert or if it looked like grasslands or what around the Nile. Not sure what it would have looked like. Anyway, here you go, guys. Here's our creature for the day. And this is one I might want to return to at some point and do something maybe a little bit more interesting with the pose. Because sometimes these poses, you know, it's like, oh, it's a little ferocious, yeah. But it might be more interesting if it's sitting up or doing something else. So, you know, feel free to play around with how you're going to do the poses and stuff like that. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be back at 2 o'clock like normal tomorrow. I'll let everyone know if there's anything different, and have a great day. Bye, everyone.